Welcome to Conversations from the Edge of Consciousness. I'm your host, Kristine Madera. For me, and possibly for you, the inner world of consciousness has always been much more real and way more fun than the so-called real material world. Growing up, I thought I was alone in this, but I'm not. There are a lot of us, and far too many have no one to talk to who shares this experience. I've been lucky to cultivate a community of friends who love to talk about the energies, ideas, and vibrations that are pushing the edges of our own consciousness, as well as our collective consciousness. In Conversations from the Edge, we share our conversations with you. Welcome to Conversations from the Edge. This is your host, Kristine Madera, and we are back today with Jana Roemer. So Jana is an astrologer and a yogi and a yoga nidra expert, and she has synthesized 20 years of study and 13 years of teaching to create yoga nidras. And it's a lying down meditation where the body relaxes to a very deep state while your awareness remains online, and you can do some amazing work there and also work to reduce monkey mind and do some wonderful things. So Jana, thank you for being here today. It's very exciting to speak with you again.
Thank you so much for having me. And we're talking about Virgo season, which I just have to out myself right from the beginning. I have a Virgo stellium. I am a Libra sun, but I have my moon and my rising, and then I have Jupiter and Saturn and my North Node and Black Moon Lilith all in Virgo.
Wow.
So
okay.
I'm very Virgo-y.
Well, so tell us first then what that is, because I'm not very familiar with Virgo. I don't really have much in Virgo, and I don't know very many Virgos. So give us a little thumbnail on what is Virgo.
Okay, so Virgo has a bit of a reputation for being a detail-oriented perfectionist, which, they come by it naturally, I have to say. It's ruled by the planet Mercury, so it is mercurial, it is of the mind. Virgo tends to have a very strong analytical quality to it. But that Virgo is also the last me sign of the zodiac. So aside from the mother in Cancer, it's all me. The questions are like, who am I in Aries, and what's my worth in Taurus, and what do I have to say in Gemini, and how do I need to be loved in Cancer? And well, Leo's just like, what about me? Look at me. Virgo is where you come to yourself and ask the question, how can I be my best self? So I've answered all these questions. Like, I know who I am. I know I know my message. I know my worth. Although Virgos do have a tendency to be very self-judgmental and self-critical, that criticism comes from this burning desire to be the absolute best version of themselves. Some people say that Virgo actually comes from the angelic realm. They are healers. And so that discernment, or that criticism, can be developed into discernment to be able to see, like, okay, here's where I can improve. This is where I can get better. This is what needs to be healed. If it's not done skillfully, it looks like I'm just trying to criticize and fix everything. If it's done skillfully, it can be very nurturing and move somebody from perfectionism into wholeness. And so when we look at the seasons, this is the end of the summer. It's the transitional sign when we're moving from summer into autumn, which starts at the equinox at the beginning of Libra season. And so when we look at our gardens in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the time of the harvest. This is the time we're kind of wrapping up summer. We say thank you. We look at it and we're like, wow, that was a good summer. Wow, that summer changed me. Wow, I'm a new person, and we get to enjoy the fruits of our labor in Virgo season. So they do tend to be a little bit of an over planner, over organizer. But what they can do with that is they can turn the routine into ritual. Virgo is where we look at how, as the season, it's how we look at our day-to-day habits, our day-to-day activities actually become the bedrock of meeting our goals and moving into a legacy expression. When we go to the next earth sign is Capricorn, that's where you're the boss. But it's like, you got to get that daily routine and ritual, that rhythm, that daily rhythm down to be your best self. And we can turn the mundane into magic when we're really working with it. So.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a sign I need to know more about. And I looked up mine while you were talking, and I actually have 3 things in Virgo, so I really do need to know what Virgo is all about. All right. So tell us what we need to know for Virgo and Virgo season.
Okay, so in the body, Virgo lives in the digestive system and lives specifically in the rest and digest side of the nervous system. Because as people know, when you're chronically stressed out, oftentimes one of the indicators of that, a doctor a functional medicine doctor or integrative medicine doctor will often say, like, how are your bowel movements? Right? And that, because they give so much information. If somebody is overly stressed, things move a little quicker, or it can get clogged up. And what that's telling us is that the nervous system is out of sorts. When we find that rhythm in our days where you're tending to your rest as well as your responsibilities, and the digestive system is able to, or the nervous system is able to pendulate between action and inaction, between getting stuff done and relaxing, then our digestion finds its regularity, and we can have, some good health there. And so where Leo lives in the spine and the heart, that's the chemical system oftentimes, but the spine is the central nervous system, although we don't often put the nervous system in Leo. In this, we're looking for that rhythm that allows for us to return to homeostasis on a regular basis. So one of the dysfunctions when we're looking at Virgo season is to be neurotic, or from the perspective of medical astrology, it could be obsessive compulsive tendencies when we're out of balance, or IBS when we're out of balance. And so finding that rhythm, like, what is my healthy rhythm in a day? What do I need to do first when I wake up? I was just talking to a girlfriend about observing yourself during the course of the day. She did a cleanse where she had to take out all sugar and all caffeine, and she's a big coffee person. And she was like, I noticed when I took out coffee after I got through the phase of headaches and anger,
Yeah.
that she found herself going through this rhythm in her day where she would have a burst of energy, and then she would have a lull, and then she'd have a burst of energy, and then she'd be tired. And I said, that is the natural rhythm. If you pay attention to a sleep cycle, it's about 90 minutes, right? Where we're more awake, and then we fall into dream time, and then we go into the deep dreamless sleep, and then we wake up a little bit, and then we go back into the dream time, right? So there's this rhythm, and that rhythm is continual through our whole day. And if you were to observe yourself, you would see, because ruled by Mercury, we have to consider the breath and the mind, that you will see over the course of the day, you will switch back between right and left nostril dominance. And one of the biggest hacks that you can do during Virgo season is observe yourself unadulterated by caffeine or sugar, or maybe the large concoction of superfoods that you're taking. Take it all out, go really, really simple, and find the rhythm of action and rest in your days. And you can observe this through right or left nostril dominance. So just for a moment, everybody that's listening right now, close your eyes and check out which nostril's dominant. So for me, I'm right nostril dominant, and that's your left brain. And that means it's time to be in my more logical, get shit done mind. When it switches and it's over in my left nostril, that's my right brain, or your right brain. And that's the more daydreamy, creative time. And so if you can actually figure out your own rhythm and then schedule your day to match that rhythm, you'll become far more efficient, and you'll stop fighting yourself so much.
Well, and that really builds on our Leo conversation, where it was about finding the new rhythm of your life and the way of being in the world that honors who you truly are and what you truly desire, and finding your natural rhythm without all the things that we do to alter our rhythm, with caffeine, with, wine, with whatever it is people tend to use.
Right.
I mean, that's the perfect movement from Leo to really say, okay, so what is my body telling me? What does my life want from me? What is my natural rhythm? And how do I honor that? So I really love that this comes on the heels of that, because we're so trained that life has its rhythm and we need to adapt our rhythm to life, whether or not it works for us. And if you happen to be lucky and your rhythm and life's rhythm are on the same, then yay. But if not,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to make the adjustment through your stimulants and your depressants, or however you do that, your serotonin and various things, to adapt your natural rhythm to this unnatural rhythm that we impose on you. And so I love this next step of just saying, nope, it's all about my rhythm and finding what's true for me, and creating a life that is honoring of my rhythms. I love that.
Yeah. And the most common thing I hear from people when they really commit to their own rest, like
Mm-hmm.
finding that rhythm of rest for their bodies, for their minds, for their heart, for their spirit, because Virgo rules our physical health. Oftentimes people say is the more I rested, the more productive I got,
Mm-hmm.
because I got clear in what it is that I had to do. So when we're constantly just going in grind culture or on the hamster wheel of
Mm-hmm.
life, we miss out on those intuitive whispers, that intuitive guidance that is always trying to bring us back to that ease. And so,
Mm-hmm.
one of the questions for Virgo season that I want to pose to everybody is, how can I relax? And then through that rest and relaxation, how can I turn chaos into order? Because all
Mm-hmm.
these parts, they have a spot that they fit with ease, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't wait to figure out where they fit. We just go for it. Okay, I have these 10 things to get done. I'm just going to go for it. But what I actually
Right.
need to do is slow down and see where they all just fit.
Mm-hmm. And they've done a study too recently. I think they were doing this in Iceland about a 4-day work week and how much
Yes.
more productive, like up to 40% more productive during the
Yes.
times they were working, when they had more time that was able to be devoted to other things besides work. Imagine that.
Imagine that. Because we're not fighting ourselves. We're not like in resistance to our life, you know?
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it in terms of time, like if somebody owns your time for a particular amount of time, and you're just there doing your stuff, but if you have a particular set of things that you need to do and you're able to be in charge of your time, you're able to do those things and then have more time for other things. It's an interesting way to begin to think about like how work operates, because it's so often about owning somebody's time.
Yeah, let's get out of that.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah, we can work smarter than that. And
Hmm.
the other thing that I like to point out about, well, all earth signs is that they're feminine in nature. And so I don't mean female, I mean like the yin side of the yin yang
Hmm.
um polarity. And so that yin, it's to be receptive, to rest, to you know, be guided by the urges of your own creativity. And so
Mm.
that's such an important part of this. So yeah, the external demands should be secondary to the internal guidance.
We've got this model of orderliness, that we all kind of conform to this orderly model, at least in the West, more or less, conform to this orderly model of what life is supposed to look like. And yet, we're selling a time, we're unproductive, we're sacrificing ourselves, all of these things. But it would seem, and we've got this idea that if everybody was doing the things that honor themselves, it would be this, unmanageable chaos. But everything seems to find its way. And so,
Yeah.
what would life be like if we were all able to live it in our own pace and in a way that is supportive of us and our own well-being, that
Yeah.
kind of folded together for our collective well-being? It doesn't have to be organized from the outside. It can be organized from the inside.
Well, and in Leo season, we had those two Aquarius full
Mm-hmm.
moons. And one of
Yeah.
the things about the Aquarius full moon that I didn't mention is that it's the nonconformist. And I
So
think the more
yes.
we conform, the more we lose touch with our inner rhythm. And when we
Mm-hmm.
go into nonconformity and listen to our inner rhythm, that's part of that recalibration that's alive right now. And that's one of the reasons why I really love this virtual work is that we actually get to do more on our own time, on our own rhythm. And we aren't necessarily being owned by time. We still are being held to responsibilities. But like even this, we're recording a podcast. We record this on our time. You listen to it on your time. It fits our own rhythms. Like me and Christina found the time where our rhythm comes together, and then it goes into the world and it lives in a sphere where now you can find where it fits on your rhythm. And nobody's less for it. We're actually richer because of it. Because, if we had to be at a specific time in a specific place, we would miss the opportunity. But by allowing us to conform to our own rhythms rather than society's rhythms. Now, of course, this is in complete contrast to many other beliefs in astrology. So this is not an absolute. I want that to be clear. It's not an absolute. Okay. It's a piece of the puzzle, because there's definitely times where coming together is the medicine that we need. But this one, when we come together as a whole person, what can happen is far greater than if we come together as a whole bunch of traumatized and broken individuals, right? Because then we're not actually honoring our purpose, or we're not honoring, like, this is the puzzle piece that I bring to bring this bigger picture into completeness or into wholeness. And, after Virgo, we have Libra season, which is coming together in partnership, any type of legally binding partnership. So marriage, work, creative, lease, it's not like mother, child, or parent, child that lives somewhere else. It's like a relationship of mutuality. And so when you look at any relationship work, if somebody's coming into a relationship from a place of lack or brokenness, that puts a heavy burden on the other person in relationship. And sometimes it works out perfect. Like sometimes the karma of two people is that fits together. And sometimes that ends up being healthy if two people work together really well, but sometimes that ends up being really toxic. Where in relationship, if one person's whole and they meet up with another person that's whole, it's an interrelationship that has far more potential for growth. And so, or exaltation. And so we do our Virgo work in order for our Libra work to be even better. So, I mean, that's why they all, build off each other. They all benefit from each other doing the work of that season. Yeah, you learning how to be your best self.
Very good. I'll have to pay attention to my Virgo stuff. All right. So what happens this month? What do we need to know?
Okay, so it's not nearly as busy as Leo season with the planets changing signs, but we start with Mercury on the 29th moving into Libra. And this is significant because at the end of September and the majority of October, we have Mercury in Libra retrograde happening. And so just like back in Gemini season, we had Mercury stayed in Gemini, I think, for 6 weeks. And then it went from Gemini to Leo and Virgo, 2 weeks in each sign. So quick, just boom, boom. And now we've got another 6 weeks of Mercury staying in Libra with retrograde. So start to pay attention to that, because the Mercury retrogrades this year are all in air signs. They're all wholly and completely in their sign. And so we started with Aquarius, which is all about, oh goodness, what's going on in humanity right now, right? That was back in January. And then in the summer, well, the end of spring, the start of summer, we had Mercury in Gemini retrograde, 6 weeks in there. And that was really about our perspective shift. Like we had a lot of perspective being kind of flipped upside down and tossed around, and context became important. And there's a lot of good work that happened there. And now it's our relations. So Mercury retrograde happening in Libra with our relations. And so really pay attention there. It's our intellect, it's our mind, it's how we engage with other people. It is also, and I'll just put a little highlight on this, Libra is also social activism. And so who knows where we're going to be when it comes to that Mercury retrograde. Who knows what's going to happen, but there could be another little push, flavor, protest, something or other going on with our social activism, which I'm here for it. I think that we have made such I mean, the divide has gotten bigger, but we've also made a lot of progress over the last, there's a lot that's happened. And if the progress hasn't happened yet, the illumination of where our work needs to be happening. So that's a big piece of this Virgo season, is that we're in the beginning degrees of where we're going to see the retrograde later on in Libra season.
Okay.
And then I always like to share some good news. So September 6th, mark your calendars. September 6th, we have Venus is in Libra, and we have Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius. And these two are trine. That means they're in favorable energy to each other. And so this has to do with, yes, your relations, but also your prosperity. This has to do with your abundance, your prosperity, your fun, your pleasure, your joy. We love Venus. Venus is one of the most benefic planets. When it's trine Jupiter, who is also one of our most benefic planets, you pay attention because it's expanding, it's growing, it's putting a spotlight on and growing whatever you're paying attention to in your Venus work. So all those themes: prosperity, pleasure, joy, relations, harmony.
Right, sounds great. We need all of that.
September 6th. Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. And I want to just put it out there that maybe we're relearning how to create prosperity. Right?
With a new understanding of what it is.
Well, yeah, we're redefining prosperity. Like maybe money has nothing to do with prosperity at all. And I know lots of people are there already, but maybe some people aren't there. Or maybe it's redefining how you attract prosperity in however you're defining prosperity. So maybe it's abundance of community or support or love or kindness or resources, or who knows, access to resources. Like in my perfect little dream world, we actually have a greater access to resources for marginalized communities because Jupiter is in Aquarius, and Aquarius, of course, is the humanitarian. And I mentioned back in the Leo podcast that Jupiter retrograding through Aquarius, maybe we get a second chance on how we take care of humanity and how we have freedom. And so with this trine, I like to think maybe, just maybe, we have a better distribution of resources.
Or at least we're beginning to move that direction and have an understanding of how that could work as a global society. Because so much of what we look at is, me and mine and the ownership model versus how does having communal resources actually provide more for more people without it having to, have as much of any one thing in order to, I'm not even really saying that very well, but that when everybody has to own their own thing, then you have to have all of these different things for people to own. But when there are things that are communally accessible to people, then people who need them can access them when they need to, and then don't access them when they don't need to, and other people can. So you can have fewer things as a pool of resources that flows much more easily and requires a lot less resources and ownership type of stuff and money and these things to support more and more people. So I'm really hoping that we kind of have these massive ahas about, wow, if we just begin to think about things differently from the bottom of the system, that if we have a different understanding from the bottom of that system, it radiates through the system in a much more easy way than if we're trying to fix the top of the system without changing the underlying idea of how that system could operate.
Yes, exactly. And boy, do we ever have a lot of work to do that. So it's not going to happen overnight.
No, but I think if we begin to kind of look and shift our own inner ways that we look at things, it can happen a lot faster than we think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what this is saying here. Let's just keep our gaze on that being awesome. And then the Virgo new moon is on September 6th. And the Virgo new moon, it goes right along with what you're saying, because Virgo is also, how may I serve? How may I be in service? And so when I'm my best self and I've taken care of my needs, how can I help take care of the needs of others? And so it very much has this, we wouldn't call it humanitarian because that would definitely be a more Aquarian word, but how can I serve? That's a Virgo word. How can I serve? And so this new moon is, again, last one was square Uranus. This, the Leo new moon was square Uranus. This one is trine Uranus. So it's a nicer experience of awakening, where in the Leo new moon, it may be more shocking. This one may be more like you're in the flow of it. Like all of a sudden you're like, okay, I get it. Okay. And then you can jump in the river and flow with it.
Nice.
It's harmonious energy with that energy, with that awakening. So, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. And so we put that humanitarian vibe with how can I serve? And then everything that you were just saying about, lifting up the marginalized communities, or the redistribution, or our new understanding, or a new approach to taking care of each other. There's a beautiful opportunity here. We also have, on that new moon, we have Mars trine Pluto, and Mars square Pluto, Mars conjunct Pluto, Mars opposite Pluto. Those are really hard. Those are hard. Mars trine Pluto, this is like a warrior for, in this case, service, a warrior to right the wrongs that we've endured.
Should be a very interesting new moon time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hope in this one. But I also talked about how Venus was going to be opposite Neptune in Leo season. In Virgo season, on this moon, it's Mars is opposite Neptune. So that brings a slightly different flavor, because we could be baffled. We could be like, wait, what? Like, I either am going crazy, or I'm so clear it's shocking. Like, I'm so clear that I'm disturbed, right? Or it could be, who knows? Maybe disturbed or shocking aren't the right words. That makes it sound like uncomfortable. Although it could be uncomfortable, it doesn't need to be disturbing.
Right.
Like that moment where you look at it and you're like, oh, okay.
Well, because any new aha
That's
confusing in a way, because it sort of disrupts all the things that were familiar. But then once you kind of like, oh, okay, and you let it land, then it unwinds itself in your system, hopefully.
Yeah, you disrupt your known reality and have to push off the banks into the unknown for a moment. It's helpful. It's helpful for a recalibration. Yeah. And then we have, on the 10th, Venus moves into good old Scorpio, which I know you love. Yeah, I love Venus in Scorpio. For me, that's where my Venus lives, in Scorpio. This is like the desire to get to the bottom of things, like a Venus in Scorpio is going to sit around, even though it's not Mercury in Scorpio, it will stick around for the tough conversation in relationship. It will look at the disharmonious parts of life and be like, what's really going on here? And how can we actually, in this case, restore harmony by embracing the shadow, or looking at what's happening behind the curtain, or what's been swept under the carpet, or the uncomfortable things like death, sex, drugs, rock and roll, addiction, divorce, all those things that people are like, oh, don't talk about that. We get into it when Venus is in. It's like we want to pierce into it. We want to see into that. And so I think that Venus in Scorpio during Virgo season is going to be really something to watch. Like maybe just looking at thematically in the world, what people choose to focus upon. We could see a little shift there.
Okay.
And then Mars moves into Libra, which is I was going to say so funny. It's not so funny. Mars does not like being in Libra. Mars does not know how to fight all of a sudden. Mars is like, wait a minute. What about the other side? What about the devil's advocate? Wait a minute. I can't make a decision right now. Like, oh crap. Like, which way am I going with this? Where Mars typically is like, I'm going this direction. You can't stop me. Mars in Libra all of a sudden is like, I don't know where I'm going so much.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think we kind of need that because people need a break from their certainty. To be so sure of something prevents new information from coming in.
Yes.
It prevents us from seeing beyond our ego. And this can slow us down enough that we can maybe let some new information in, maybe redirect course, maybe think of somebody. Mars thinks about themselves a lot, maybe think of somebody more than just yourself for a moment that slows you down. Like, oh wait, that would have been selfish.
But it's part of that. It's part of that transit then also from non-wholeness, from division and inner division to wholeness, because when we are always looking to the opposite for something to fight or how to define ourselves or something, we're in that polarity, and we're in the either or. And in order to come into our own wholeness, we kind of have to stop fighting ourselves and stop
Mm-hmm.
looking for the conflict to define ourselves to be able to fight with something. Because as long as you do that, you continue to strengthen the division and the separation within you and then within society. But when you can look and not have a fight, like, it's a big developmental for adults too. This is not a childhood developmental, but this is the developmental stage as a human being, to not need to operate in division and us and them in order to know who you are and know what you're doing and know what you want and to move forward. It's really about coming into that integrated space of listening to your deeper self, and without having to be in opposition to anything else, to follow your own path without making something else wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing who you are by being different or from this other group of people and making them wrong and making yourself right. It's this huge
Huge.
developmental journey. So maybe this will help us all do that. Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, wouldn't it though? I think just slowing down a little bit is
Yeah.
going to be a good thing. Like just
Mm-hmm.
slowing that fight down a little bit. But,
Yeah.
astrology is an absolute. We still have to,
Yep.
wait and see what happens. It's just the
Mm-hmm.
energy that's on its way. Who knows? We'll see. I'm excited to see though, because when I look into the rest of this year, like these seasons that we're talking about, I just really see a lot of hope. And that actually leads us perfectly to the Pisces full moon, because the Pisces full moon is, Virgo is the material world. It's the mundane day to day rhythm and ritual, like your daily habits. It's what you're doing. It's how you feed yourself. It's the physical body.
Mm-hmm.
Pisces could not be more opposite. Pisces is the ethereal, it's the spiritual. They don't want form, they don't want restrictions. There's no
Mm-hmm.
boundaries. They just want to merge, and it's beautiful. They just want everything to be beautiful. And not that Virgo doesn't want things to be beautiful. Actually, Virgo really respects beauty.
Mm-hmm.
The order, the way they see beauty is actually through order. Like when the house is organized, that's beautiful to a Virgo. It
Mm-hmm.
might not be so color coordinated like maybe a Libra or a Taurus would do, but that order creates beauty in and of itself. And we see that. Like you look at sacred geometry, it's just so beautiful. You look at
Mm-hmm.
a rose as it blooms, it's ordered, it's beautiful. You watch the cycle of the seasons, it's ordered. It's so stunning through order. So Pisces really has the same desire for order in a way that is completely ethereal.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like Pisces is going to go pray first, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
when this Pisces full moon comes, it's to have one foot in the material
Mm-hmm.
and one foot in the ethereal, and to remember that to have a balanced life, to have a true experience of changing or like moving from chaos into order, it is to have faith. It is to be connected with source. It is to receive
Mm-hmm.
guidance from source, because that order isn't as intellectual as the Virgo wants you to see it. The order actually comes through the intuition that Pisces wants us to see, that
Yeah.
guidance of a greater force. Like we are a speck of dust floating through a giant open space in the galaxy, in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And Pisces wants us to remember that and not get too bogged down by all the details. They're like, whoa, pan out, pan out. We're here for a blink of an eye. Can you just enjoy
Yeah.
it? Take a
Well,
nap.
and as a Pisces rising, I know from my own experience that, outer order and inner order they have to go together for me.
Mhm.
If I'm disordered internally in my energy, I look to the outside world and I make something orderly, and that helps to increase the order within me. But vice versa, in this chaotic world that we're in, being able to come into that inner sense of order, not that ego order, but the energetic order where you're congruent, you're in your heart, you're in your center, and allowing that then to guide your outer order and to help you radiate that in the world. Because for me, if that inner order is not there, and it's very ephemeral, it's very all kinds of stuff. It has its own order, but it's not a dictatorial order. It is an energetic order. And if that's not working, nothing ever works. for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the full moon always in Pisces just reinforces why it's so important to schedule rest into your days. Like your daily rhythm has to include something to fill your cup, to rest, to get you listening, to slow you down. So that's how you be your best self. It comes at the very tail end of Virgo season, this Pisces full moon. So it seems to me that we do have some work to do over the course of Virgo season in order to really find that. I don't know. I always think that sometimes when we go a little bit out of balance, it helps us to remember to restore that balance. When I look to the aspects, though, over the course of Virgo season, there's a lot of harmonious energy. There are some oppositions, but more trines and sextiles. There's a lot of harmonious energy. And some of that harmonious energy comes through challenge, but ultimately, like that moving from chaos to order is what I see as the theme. And I think we could use that. Oh my goodness. I don't know anybody that can't use that right now.
I think we all need that. All right. And that's a terrific way or a terrific time to wrap this up then. And it's always so fascinating having a whole month kind of laid out so that I can watch and rise and fall with the energies as they ebb and flow. So I always appreciate our conversation. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. You can find Jana's information and her Attune to the Moon site and a 50% off code to get one of the passes on there in the show notes or in conversationsfromtheedge.net. Just look for Jana Roemer and you'll find it there. But I definitely really encourage you to go deeper with this, because if you are in tune with the energies as they flow, everything flows a little bit easier.
At the end of this season, I just want to seed one more little thing quickly, is that when Libra season begins, we have the equinox. And at Attune to the Moon, we always do these retreats. And so they're 4 days. There's usually 2 sessions a day, sometimes 3. And we just take you through a journey. And the summer solstice event was just incredible. We raised money for Grandmother Flor de Mayo of the International Council of the 13 Indigenous Grandmothers organization called The Path, where she's collecting ancient heritage seeds. And she came and she shared some Mayan cosmology with us, and it was just amazing. And then we had a whole lineup of incredible teachers and guides, and we've been doing these now for just over a year, and they are one of our most favorite things that we do over at Attune to the Moon. And this time I actually, at the time of this recording, I don't know who we're raising money for this time, but it will be a fundraiser again, and we'll get some good Indigenous teachings in there alongside Celtic teachings and astrology and the whole thing. And they always really do a good job of helping people set intention for the season ahead and getting really clear in the astrology. We give you the whole month all at once, not a slightly different way than what we do here, actually. And so, yes, if you want, check out, we'll have that up. By the time you're listening to this podcast, all that information will be up on our site. So,
all right, so check that out. Perfect.
Thank you
so much. I'm looking forward to our Libra conversation coming up next month. All right, well, you take care, and we will talk with you again next month.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
This is your host, Kristine Madera. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation from the edge of consciousness. You can find all our conversations at conversationsfromtheedge.net. You'll also find links to schedule a private conversation with me or any of my friends, as well as tools to help you expand your own consciousness and explore what's possible for you outside the boundaries of your current perceptions. Feel free to use this podcast to start your own conversation by sharing it with friends, on social media, in your blog, or even in your own podcast. And as always, live the adventure of pushing your own edge. It's the most amazing adventure there is.